In order to really understand the Cold War, we need to look back towards the last 2 years of World War II and take a look at the big three. Of course, the big three being the United States, the USSR, and Great Britain. And we need to look at what the aims or the goals that each of those three great powers wanted when it became clear that they were going to defeat Nazi Germany. One of the first major goals of the United States was both an economic goal and a political goal. And that was that the United States and the other countries throughout the world should have access to raw materials and that the world should be a free trade zone. They did not want the British and the French to have closed colonial empires, and they also didn't want to see sort of autocratic regimes like Germany and Italy rise to power. That's an economic goal, but it's also a political goal because the United States and the President Franklin Roosevelt believed that by expanding free trade, that would allow the rise of democracies, and that would prevent authoritarian regimes like had risen before from reoccurring. Also building upon the work of a prior U.S. President, Woodrow Wilson, and the League of Nations that was formed after the end of World War I, the United States supported the idea of the creation of the United Nations. If you remember, the United States never joined the League of Nations, but having signed the Atlantic Charter in 1941 with Winston Churchill, Roosevelt believed that an international organization could be used for problem solving and for conflict de-escalation, certainly the expansion of democracy and representation of all the countries of the world. It's important to note, however, that even though this was supposed to be a democratic institution, it was clear that the big five countries coming out of World War II, France, China, the Soviet Union, Great Britain, and the United States, would wield the most power at the United Nations. And if you look at the structure of the United Nations Security Council, we can still see that that's the case today. And the final goal of the United States with regard to the post-war situation was that they were still very interested in continuing after the war and forming an alliance and cooperating with the Soviet Union and Great Britain. As you might imagine, some of the other competing interests of both the U.S. and the USSR would prevent that from happening.